I started consulting to help business owners sell their businesses earlier this year, and we sold my first client's business in 2 months working together. For the purposes of this video, I'm not going to share my client's name because I don't want to invade his privacy too much. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to refer to him as John Smith. Now, John came to me 3 months into running his business, and we'll call it Smith Media Company, small content management agency, and it had doubled year over year in revenue since its beginning. He was servicing all different types of needs, and John was having great success, but he was stuck in the day-to-day of the business. He was having to work himself to the bone to handle all the work, and he was struggling to get past the point of about 9 to 10K a month in revenue without getting overwhelmed. This was because he had to manage sales, marketing, finances, and all the work. He'd had some help here and there, but it wasn't structured or organized. And he wanted to grow the business beyond its current state and prep it to sell or get acquired. But the other problem is he didn't know how to approach this. He didn't know how to find a buyer or what to put in place in his business before selling, or how to work through the process when someone did want to buy. Many business owners are in this position. You get to the point of managing all that you can manage as one person, and then you start getting overwhelmed. You don't put the systems in place that actually allow you to grow past a certain point. And that causes you to fail to be able to sell your business. I could see that without major changes, this was the position that John would be in. To get his business ready to sell, we had some work to do. So we got to work. What did this look like though? We found some core areas to focus on and began meeting weekly for an hour or two to move him towards his goal step by step. Every week, we would pivot and adjust based on what was going on and what still needed to be put in place. What we focused on with him was preparing his business to be sold. And that's what I'm going to cover in this video. Now, there's a whole different mindset that you have to adopt when you're actually preparing to sell a business that's totally different than just growing one. I would give John homework every week and keep a running list of what he'd done and what we still needed to work on. And I dug up our old session notes so that I could cover some of the key areas that we focused on and worked on before selling his business. I'm going to cover the 7 biggest ones that we worked on before selling that increased his company's value and why we did them. This will give you an idea of what things you could do in your business to prepare for a sale. So one thing we realized early on is that he'd worked with tons of people and tons of businesses, but he didn't have a lot to show for it, meaning he was lacking reviews for all these successful jobs well done that he could showcase as social proof. So we created a message for him to reach out to 10 to 15 past or current clients to try to collect some more reviews. And for you, this could go something like, "Hey, Joe client, I hope you're doing well. I enjoy working with you or enjoyed working with you a lot. As a business owner, most of my growth comes through word of mouth and referral. People considering my services like to be able to see how it's gone for others. Could I trouble you for just a minute of your time when you get a chance just to leave me an honest review about the business? It would help me out a lot and mean a ton to me." Now, if you're doing your job and doing good work for them, they're not going to say no to this, but they also probably won't think to leave you a review if you don't ask for it. So it's important to ask. The next thing we did is we focused on systems. We got him set up on something called Monday.com so that he could manage the projects that he was working on or be able to see the status of other projects that employees were working on. This was so that things could be just organized and arranged all in one place and that the team could have an organized way to approach everything. The next thing we did is we created a new client onboarding checklist. The purpose of this was mostly expectation setting. We realized a number of his clients had dropped off in the past, and a lot of it seemed to be coming from a mismatch of understanding and people just not being on the same page about what to expect from the services. We also worked on some expectation setting for the process throughout, rather than just the onboarding. We realized there wasn't really a clear understanding of how long it would take for services to get finished, so we defined them in more detail so that he could communicate them to his clients better. Now, the next thing I had him do was calculate the net profit margin for each one of his clients. He had multiple clients, all at different levels of services and cost, with varying levels of involvement from employees. So this allowed us to really hone in on which ones were most valuable from a net profit standpoint so that he could focus on getting more of those types of clients and keeping them for longer. We also created some different tracking sheets for the social media management that he was doing for his client. So this allowed him to be able to report on what was actually going on for them at any given time and for them to always know where they stood on a high level with the services that were being performed for them. Another issue was that he was taking calls kind of all the time to manage the load of referrals and growing through word of mouth, and there wasn't really an organized way for people to get in touch with him. What we we did is we made him a Calendly account so that he could actually have people book a call with him that were interested in his services. And that way his days could be a little bit more predictable and he could actually plan around them a little bit more to get his work done. Now, coming into this relationship, John was skeptical. He didn't think he had time to be able to do this kind of work, but he ended up actually having more and more time for himself as the process went on and as we got into things, because he had put the systems in place for things to run more smoothly. Here's what he had to say about it.
One of my biggest concerns obviously was, the fact that I'm working like 16, 17-hour days sometimes, trying to just like literally from like sun up to sundown, trying to keep up with all the work and everything. So like I completely get where like the guy's coming from saying I don't have like the bandwidth or anything, because I mean I did it, and it's really strange where you see like the time. Honestly, it doesn't take, I hate to say it, like it doesn't take that long when you're like, okay, like zero in. Like the reason that I'm home today is because I'll be completely honest, I did not have the stuff that I needed to get done that was on the homework last week. And so I went home about 1 and it's 2:30 and I knocked everything that I needed to get out on everything. So it's really not too terrible.
So you knocked out like the whole week's homework in like an hour or two?
Yeah.
Now, we had planned initially to do a 12-week program to work through all of this together. What ended up happening next surprised both of us. We had made such progress only a few weeks in that John had attracted the attention of a buyer already. This was a bigger media company that was building out a portfolio of smaller media companies. We immediately switched to planning for this. Our sessions from there on out were about figuring out what John wanted out of this deal. He wanted to stay on and grow the company more without having to find new clients all the time or manage the relationships as much. He wanted to focus on doing the work he enjoyed. He also wanted the resources for the company to grow faster, and he got it all. Let's talk about the deal and how it went down. This was perfect for him. The bigger company ended up buying the majority of John's company. I still remember how excited we both were when he actually first gave me the news. Here's the moment that he told me.
I would like to officially say that I have sold my business.
Oh my God. You did it.
I did.
Tell me about it.
So yeah, so I am being acquired. You have this holding company, and within that, they're the essential, like think of there are smaller companies within it that are essentially the services within this company. I've been bought out halfway through the course.
Way through the course.
Yeah, make sure you got this part recording. I have been, my business has been bought out 7 weeks into the course.
I love it.
They kept him in the company and worked out a deal where he'd be on a bigger salary with bonuses. The salary was way more than he'd ever been able to pay himself from the company before. About double, actually. And there wasn't a big initial cash payout for this sale, but the salary and bonuses setup was a big deal for John. This was security for him going forward. Now, there was another big deal for him too. They had a plan to grow his business to 8 times its current size within a year because of the large clients that they had. This would make his remaining share of the company worth about 3 times as much as when he had 100% of it. So I've checked in with John a few times since he actually sold the company. And the last time I did, his monthly revenue was already at 4 times what it was before. Because of how much of the company he actually still owns, his share is actually already bringing him in more money than when he had 100% ownership of it just a couple months ago. He also said he's never enjoyed work as much and feels a lot less busy even while growing faster. I didn't even mention the best part of this deal in the future. The plan is that the new owners will sell the business as a whole once it's ready in a few years, and John will get another payout for what he still owns. They estimate that his business alone within the business will be doing over $1 million a year in revenue by that point. And at that point, he'll pretty much be able to do whatever he wants with his business and his life. Now, I post content like this regularly where I share what I'm doing in my consulting and information about it. So subscribe to see it more often. And I do free consultations with business owners where we talk about these types of things. We talk about how to prepare for selling their business at some point. And I put the link to book a call with me in the description, but you can just message me on Instagram too at brodyvinson.io and we'll plan a time to talk. Now, in the meantime, get out there and take some action on some of this stuff. As always, happy value building.